Okay, so we've got Kenny who's joined us here. So Kenny is a Muslim from Texas, I believe, who wanted to chat about a couple of things we spoke about last week. So Kenny, please unmute yourself. Welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the things you want to address, and then we'll have a conversation here amongst us on the panel.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and everyone who's listening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're coming. Yes, we can hear you coming.
Okay. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I am from Houston, Texas, and I am a 30-year revert to Islam. And the majority of that time, you know, I was not practicing Islam the way I should have been. But, you know, I've changed some things up in the last number of years. And studying, I've actually of the Drastic Islamic Society in the area in which I live. And I am the imam there, and I am a student of Michigan University, where I'm studying to get my bachelor's degree in Islamic studies. And so a couple of weeks ago, what I was trying to call in about was the discussion that you were having about apostasy and about Sharia law. Things about each of those, because there's some gross misconceptions about Sharia law, and which are two of the areas in which people who are continually attacking us attack those two areas, things about that. And so we can proceed. I don't know if you have some questions, jump right into it.
You're dropping just a little bit. I don't know if you're on a computer or if you're on a Wi-Fi, if you can get closer. You are dropping a little bit of your connection there every so often.
Okay. What about now?
Okay, we'll hear you speak a little bit more. Okay, so I guess you can point out where you think there's some misconceptions we had, and then we can discuss that. I will.
Okay.
Before you go ahead with that, I will just note something, or if I can use the term, pull you up on something. You use the term attack Islam. So what do you mean by attack Islam? Because we critique Islam here, and presumably Muslims.
Well,
now, so you barely, I can barely hear you or understand you at all.
Let me call back in about 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. See if you can.
And this was clear now.
Is it coming through clear now?
You're still dropping words there. Just try and say a couple of sentences.
Okay.
Try again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I can hear you now. Yep.
I'm at a hotel. Okay, it's strange. I've been having the issue with the Wi-Fi here at this hotel I've been at this past week, and so I'm not exactly sure what to do to eliminate that issue. Are you still hearing me clearly?
You're coming through clear now. Yes, now you're not dropping. Okay. Go ahead. See if you address what I talked about with the word attack Islam.
Well, like I was mentioning, there's a difference between critiquing Islam and attacking Islam. If someone's critiquing Islam, then they have a genuine desire to either give or to receive information. And that's a big difference, because people who simply attack Islam go with whatever they hear randomly from word of mouth and from illegitimate sources, and they use that in whatever means that they possibly can to discredit and to just do just that, to attack Islam. So to critique is to question, and to do so by questioning with a curiosity that is genuine. And if it's done in that regard, then absolutely there's no problem with that. But the fact is that there are people who claim that they were ex-Muslims, for one. They claim they're ex-Muslims that distort the truth. And there are also people who are true Islamophobes at heart and could care less about what the truth is. And so they're going to jump on anything and everything that they can in order to attack Islam any possible way that they can. Are you still there?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I mean by that. if you just get online, you have an opportunity to gain as much information as you need, okay, in order to draw your conclusion. But what people are going to do, they're going to go to websites and sources that they're already in agreement with, instead of looking at the big picture and getting a full understanding of what it is that they're talking about regarding any given topic. And so if you're going to Islamophobic websites, or you're going to illegitimate websites, and when you're going by hearsay or what you hear in social media, what you hear in the media throughout the world, and you're basing your opinion on simply that, and you haven't done true research and true study, and you're not going to legitimate sources to gain your information, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also doing a disservice to anyone that actually hears you speak on a topic of which you have no true knowledge of. And so that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I heard during, not last week's, I didn't listen last week, and I only listened briefly after I was leaving the masjid the week before last. And the topic of discussion was apostasy and Sharia law. And there's just some real simple and basic misunderstandings that are, I say basic, it's some basic knowledge that people simply don't have, and so it generates gross misconceptions about these topics.
Okay, can we talk about Sharia now? What is your beef with what we said?
Okay, in regards to Sharia, for one, there's 13 countries throughout the world that implement Sharia law, and not one of those Muslim countries, I'd say 13 countries, 13 Muslim countries that are predominantly Muslim, and these countries have portions of Sharia law within their countries in their laws, but not one of those countries follows Sharia law completely. Not one.
According to whose definition?
Not even close. This is just information you're going to have to look up. It's just a fact.
No, we don't have to look up it. This is exactly what I'm saying.
Right. And this is exactly what I'm saying.
Definition.
But let's put it like this: through Michigan University, when we study Sharia law, it is established fact that out of those 13 majority Muslim countries, not.
You're dropping a bit, Kenny. We can't hear you. We've lost you. Hello? Hello? Now you're back again, yes.
Okay, yeah, it's just bear with me.
Various ways.
Yeah, so bear with me.
Oh,
it's not very good here. So anyway, in my studies at Michigan University, when we studied Sharia law, it was established that out of those 13 majority Muslim countries, not one of them follow Sharia law exactly. Not one. Not even close.
What criteria? You say established fact.
For one, let's establish what Sharia law is, and then you'll understand. Because that's where the misconception is, that the understanding of what Sharia law actually is people simply don't understand what it is.
Okay, what is Sharia?
So Sharia is the laws of our God, our Creator. But within those laws of our God, our Creator, we must first and foremost follow the laws of the land. Whatever the law is of the land must be followed first, and it cannot be deviated. It cannot be deviated unless it goes totally against the principles of Islam. Meaning, if someone can't make you worship some other god or things of that nature. But in regards to the actual laws of the land, like in the United States, we have states that have the death penalty, and we have states that reject the death penalty. If we live in a state that has the death penalty, well, if you do a crime, guess what? You're going to be put to death. Okay, the same thing applies in Sharia law. Wherever you are, we must follow the laws of the land. Okay, so.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If you say the laws of the land, if now a sister inherits the same as the brother, what happens?
Okay, now you're talking about inheritance. There's reasons
for that. It's called inheritance.
Okay, so
yes.
Right. So you're talking about inheritance, and that's in the study of Surah An-Nisa, which is the 4th chapter of the Quran. It covers all of that, and there's reasons why the female receives less than the man.
No, there's not.
And
we've lost you again, Kenny.
The tafsir, which is the analytical interpretation of Surah An-Nisa, which is the 4th chapter of the Quran, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. There's actual reasons why, and they're legitimate reasons why, and they're very logical reasons why. And if you haven't studied this, then you are simply basing your opinion on having not studied it.
I've studied
and guess
it.
what? Where did you study this at?
It doesn't matter. I've studied it. I'm not going to show you my diploma. I've studied it. Show me where it says in Aisha in the 4th chapter.
I'm going to hold you to the same criteria. If you want me to accept anything that you're saying, then I would like for you to prove your source.
Kenny, it's very simple.
If you can't,
Kenny,
it's very simple. If you haven't studied this, then you have no reason.
Kenny, in chapter 4, you have 3 different areas. It's 411, 412, and 176. Those are the 3 areas which talk about inheritance. They only say a woman receives half. Why does she receive half?
Right, exactly. So just like I just said, you have not studied this. What I told you, if you study the tafsir, which is the analytical interpretation, which is what I go to Michigan,
not the interpretation. I'm talking about the Quran.
Right. Guess what? The tafsir is the analytical interpretation of what? The Quran. That's exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is
the Quran or the interpretation.
Right. If you're studying the Quran, you have to study the interpretation to get an understanding.
I don't. Where does it say that?
I
thought the Quran is complete.
Okay, so let's stop right here because so what I'm trying to tell you is the tafsir is the analytical interpretation of each.
Bloody hell. Right. Don't treat us like children.
Well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat you the way you are commenting.
Show me in the Quran where it says why a woman inherits half.
You're talking about something that you have no knowledge of, and what I'm trying to tell you.
Show me, educate me.
Right.
Show me in the Quran where it says why a woman inherits half. Easy.
Okay, if you would stop talking for a moment and let me explain myself, I will do just that. You ready?
Steady, go.
Okay, so if you study the analytical interpretation of the verses of each and every line and ayah of the Quran, then you will understand what the meaning actually is. Okay, in the English language or whatever language you might be reading it in, for one, you're not reading the Quran if you're reading it in any of those languages. And so in order to gain an understanding about what is actually being said in the Quran, you have to study the tafsir of the Quran. I myself have studied in the university the analytical tafsir of each and every verse of the Quran. And so there's a big difference. You
a very specific question.
Right. And I'm giving you very specific answers. Yes, I am.
You're tap dancing around. I've asked a very specific question. You give a specific answer.
No, what you're doing is you're cutting me off and not letting me complete my statement.
You're talking about, I don't know, Adam and Eve. I asked you a question. Where in the Quran does it say? Okay, let me ask differently. Does it say in the Quran why a woman receives less inheritance than the man?
In the Quran, it gives the directive. In the Hadith, it gives the explanation of it. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, says to obey him and to obey the Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, expounds upon what these words mean in the Quran. And so that's what I'm trying to. I'm answering your question.
No, you're not. Stop. I asked you, it's a yes, no. Does the Quran say why a woman receives
I just told you,
less than the man?
The Quran gives the directive. The Prophet
is that a
Muhammad,
yes or no?
The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him,
yes
gives
or no?
the explanation of it.
Kenny, it's very simple. It's a yes or a no.
Right, but I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer because it doesn't require a yes or no answer.
So you can't answer the question. Why can't you say I can't answer the question?
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the question in the manner in which it's supposed to be answered. In which
you don't decide that. Okay, let me ask you something else.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the truth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, just like I told you, is that the Quran gives the directive, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, expounds upon this in the Quran. I mean, in the Hadith.
Okay.
Okay.
So if the Quran makes a mistake, then what?
For one, over 1,400 years, the Quran has made no mistake whatsoever.
Okay.
And
if the daughters inherit 2/3 and the husband, the father and the mother inherit 1/3, how can the wife inherit 1/8?
I'm not going to get into any of those math situations.
It's not a math situation. It's very simple. 2/3 plus 1/3 is 1, plus the 1/8 is more than 1. How can you have that?
Let me explain to you why, in general terms, why the woman gets half. The reason
you can't answer that.
I can't answer that.
Why is it that there's a mistake in the Quran?
There is no mistake in the Quran.
Okay, if the daughters get 2/3 and the parents get 1/3, how can the wife get 1/8?
I don't understand your question completely, to be honest, and I'm not going to get into the math.
Okay, in the Quran has 114.
What I'll do.
Chapter 4 in the Quran is called the women, the Anisa. And in the chapter 4, you have 176 different sentences. And in 11, 12, and 176, it goes and tells people what the inheritance portions are of the individual people. It says in 4:11, it's the second sentence, verse, it says, and blah, 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 and then the daughters get half. But if it's more than 2 daughters, women, it says women, not daughters, but women, then they will get 2/3 of the inheritance. Right. Then it says that the father and the mother each get 1/6, which is 1/3. So it's 2/3 plus 1/3 is 1. And the wife gets 1/8. That's what it says in the Quran. Can you explain how that is possible?
What I'm going to explain it to you without you trying to nitpick every.
I'm nitpicking. I'm allowed to nitpick. You're God. Right.
You're being something you simply don't understand. So let me explain to you why.
2/3 plus 1/3 is 1. I don't understand.
Right. You just simply don't understand. If you let me explain to you why the woman gets less, then you'll understand.
No, I just asked you how it's possible that 2/3 plus 1/3 does not allow for 1/8.
I'm not going to get to the math. Okay,
so you can't answer my question why the woman gets less than the man. You can't answer why there's a mathematical error in the Quran.
No, I told you I can answer you why the woman gets less than the man.
No, you can't, because the Quran doesn't say so.
No, I can tell you why. I absolutely can tell you why.
You are going now into tafsirs. You're going and giving me Al-Jalalain, Ibn Kathir, Maududi, or whoever.
No, actually, I'm not. No, I am not. I haven't said any of that you just said has not come out of my mouth.
Kenny, just listen. You're going to tell me that some human being says because the woman can use her money for perfume and for makeup, and the man has to look after the family, that's why the man gets more than the woman.
Are you there? Because I lost y'all for a second there.
Yes, you were here.
Okay, well, I lost y'all, so I don't know what he said.
Okay, so Kenny, let me just summarize here. You've been asked about it in the Quran. You haven't answered the Quran, but you're saying that the tafsir gives the explanation for what the Quran doesn't say. Is that correct? As a summary
I'm telling you that the tafsir is a requirement to gain the full interpretation of what the Quran is stating. And the tafsir is based on a couple of different things. For one, the linguistics of the Quran, which is in the Arabic language, and also the hadith and the actual sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who was sent to actually expound upon each of these things.
Why?
Because it's very simple. Because of the different levels of comprehension and different levels of intellect throughout society.
So your God failed?
No, actually, that's a ridiculous thing to say. I'll repeat again. Because of the different intellects in society, it's needed for some people to have a more clear explanation of what's being said. And therefore, you have some people because people have varying levels of intellect.
Why?
So someone might Someone might read a paragraph and know exactly what it's saying. Someone might have to read it 10 times, and after
Why?
the 10th time, they still don't know what's being said.
Why?
Because of the varying levels of intellect.
Why?
I know what you're going to try to get at, which is a prime example. Which is a prime example of someone who attacks Islam. Because if you're attacking,
don't make it personal. I'm asking why.
If you're attacking the God of Islam, then inevitably you're attacking Islam. Right?
I am questioning you. I'm saying why.
Why what? Why do people have varying levels of intellect?
Yes.
Or are you saying why is everyone not born perfectly?
Yes.
Okay, very simply, because everything in this life is a test, and so therefore we're faced with different circumstances.
Why?
Why? That's by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our Creator. Because inevitably a day of judgment's going to come, and we're going to answer for each and every decision that we made in this world. So and sometimes, guess what? Let me finish my answer.
Hang on, he doesn't know. Your Allah is incompetent and does not know.
Actually, He knows everything that you reveal and everything that you conceal.
So why does
He knows when you're laying in your bed at night, He knows what you're thinking about. Do you realize that?
Because so he's eavesdropping and spying on me?
Right.
I think he is not.
Actually, I wouldn't call it spying, but keeping track of you every step of the way.
I call it spying.
Every moment of your life.
Your God creates a book. Okay, your God creates a book which is supposed to be read by the humans it creates, and it creates the humans incapable of understanding the book it writes. So he then sends other humans to explain to the incompetent humans that he created incompetent to explain the book that he wrote, which is incompetent because it contains mistakes. So the humans have to explain the mistakes to those who don't understand it. So now everybody can be happy. Is that the story you're selling us?
Actually, in your attempt to be sarcastic, you actually answered it exactly right. The way you just answered is exactly right. Mm-hmm. And only someone who does not believe is someone that will have a problem with that.
Of course, because it's the mafia. If you don't believe,
but the same one who doesn't believe, the same one that doesn't believe is the same one that didn't know what day he would come into this world and doesn't know what day he's going out of this world. And so you see yourself as self-sufficient.
Okay, Kenny, is there anything that you can answer? Is there anything that you know about the Quran that you know something about?
Let me hold my emotions in this situation, because this is the month of Ramadan, and I'm not here to argue with anyone, and I'm not going to take your patronizing and condescending remarks. Okay.
Do you know chapter 16, sentence 125?
Tell me what is it.
Do you want to look it up? You are an imam, okay? You should know the Quran.
I'm an imam. Do you know what an imam is?
Yes, he's the leader. Oh, fucking hell. It's somebody who stands in the front, whose bum goes up the first.
Right. Okay. You know the difference between a hafiz and an imam?
Yes, I know the difference between a hafiz and an imam.
Okay, exactly. So as an imam, it's not a requirement for me to learn.
You should
and
know
memorize each and every line of the Quran.
I thought every Muslim is obliged.
Hold on, and for you to pull out a random verse in a certain ayah and expect me to tell you exactly what that is.
Well, it's a substantial one. It's an important one.
Right. Well, tell me what it is if it's so important.
It says that you are supposed to argue in a very polite way and explain your belief.
Right. Exactly. So what does it say? It says, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and kind words. Right? Exactly. And that's why I said I'm going to have to control my emotions, because I don't like your condescending attitude. I'm a grown man.
Tell us about tell us about Sharia, where we made a mistake.
Okay. So in Sharia, there's many areas in which you've made a mistake. You've jumped into a lot of conclusions about something that you have very little knowledge of. And that's just plain and simple. And so you may have people call in and they support what you think, but those people that call in supporting what you think already think in the lines that you do. And what is that? They have a fear of Islam. And so therefore, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you give us a specific example? Because what I'm noticing here is a lot of generalities when you speak. So,
well, I can't talk about specifics because I don't know any of you individually and personally. So I can't talk about any of you in particular.
No.
So I have to talk about generalities. No, I have to talk in general terms.
I'm not speaking about one of us. I'm speaking about specific claims that one of us or more than one of us have made. So, for example,
well, I don't. Go ahead.
Example. I think if I remember, and Stops can correct me, when we were talking about Sharia, one of the things Stops mentioned is that a man and a woman in Sharia can never get, I think it's correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stops, and you may well do, that they can never get equal portions under Sharia. That's not possible under Sharia. Just before you answer, Kenny, is that what you said, Stops? I don't want to misquote you.
No, there are configurations where a man and a woman can get the same. Yes.
Oh, okay. So maybe you can give Kenny one of the things that you spoke about, because I can't remember all of them, that Kenny, if you know a specific claim that one of us made that you feel is wrong, that's what I'd like you.
Rob, I can't do that because like I said, I was leaving the masjid from Juma, and I was just listening to it as I was driving, and also had calls coming in. And so I can't tell you, that was 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you any specific thing that was said, but in regards to apostasy in particular, and in regards to the stoning of people who have committed adultery, or any Sharia law in regards to punishment. And so I wanted to clarify something. Go ahead.
Why do you keep calling it Sharia law? What is the reason behind that?
Right, I'm calling it Sharia law because that's what y'all were talking about 2 weeks ago when I called in, which is why I'm calling in now.
No, we talk about Islamic law. Islamic law is Sharia, and you are saying Islamic law. This sounds funny.
Well, it's just what does that matter?
Kenny,
we both know what the context of what we're talking about. So what
Kenny,
does that matter?
I would be quite interested to hear your views on apostasy and your particular views on that.
This is in one of the areas in which I absolutely wanted to talk about. Okay, and so for apostasy to take place, please let me give this full explanation because it's quite easy to understand if you open your mind to understanding and hearing the truth. The fact of the matter is that apostasy can only be enacted when it is wartime, for one. First and foremost, there must be a legitimate war taking place. Okay, if there's no war taking place, then one cannot be killed for apostasy. Period. And that's period.
Have you got a source for that?
Absolutely. If you study in the university the Islamic laws of Sharia, well, if you want a legitimate source, that's the legitimate source. Studying actual Islamic material from Islamic sources. That's the source. I just told you I'm a student of Michigan University.
Listen, Kenny, I'm in your side here, right? I'm in your side here. Trust me, right?
Okay.
I'm genuinely interested to hear your views on apostasy, like what you think. But you can't just go say, "Oh, you've got to go to university." That's not fair, right? Because then that just stops the conversation.
No, it doesn't stop the conversation. What I'm trying to express to you is that if you're going to talk about a subject, then you have to study it from legitimate sources. And where do you gain a legitimate source about any given topic? Most likely in the university. If you have not studied it in the university, then you're doing the topic a disservice. And that's just plain and simple.
So what happens where I am?
Let me ask you this.
I don't have a university here that teaches your form of Islam, because obviously I'm not the same as yours, right? Well, what I was, sorry. But number two, I don't have the time either. So all I've got to do is I've got to listen to either my imam or the little time I've got. So I ain't got the luxury of going 9 to 5 to a university to understand what your form of apostasy is. So that's why I'm saying it's not fair. You can't just, because I'm genuinely interested, because I might be considered as an apostate. So I'm just wanting to know where my position is in this. So do you understand that it's not fair for you to just turn around and say, "Oh, well, go to uni"?
Okay, it's very interesting that you mentioned time, because the time is crucial. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, it says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says, wal asr in al insana lafil khusr, الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. What I just said in English is, by the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss, except for those who have faith and do righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and of constancy. And I'm bringing those verses up for a purpose and for a reason, which is in regards to it saying, who join together in doing righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and of constancy. And how do you gain the truth? You have to gain the truth by going to legitimate sources and not just going off of hearsay and not going off of your own. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're not giving me your opinion. You're not giving me what you believe.
I'm giving you my opinion, which is based on Islam. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that in order for this to take place, you have to legitimately seek the truth. And what does it say? And of patience and of constancy. So you have to continually seek knowledge. And if you have a legitimate concern about any given topic, then you have an obligation. You have an obligation. If you're going to sit and try to talk about a topic, then you should have an obligation within yourself to gain as much information about that topic as you possibly can.
Kenny,
and where do you go?
You go. You're waffling.
Okay. So in order to do that, you go to legitimate sources.
Kenny, as I said, I'm in your side here right now, right? But for example, if Stops or Steve or Rob were to ask me, look, even a couple of years ago, look, and I was a Muslim for 43 years, right? So, I'm not saying that I studied to your level, but I did know the Quran and the Hadith. But if they were to ask me the same question I asked you, what's your views on apostasy 2-3 years ago, I'd have been like, look, it's someone who has rejected Islam, having taken Islam out of Islam, and it's quite clear it's the death penalty. That's it. That's what I would have answered. And that's me being honest.
I appreciate you being honest, but honestly, you would be answering incorrectly.
How?
Because
that's good. But how?
Right. And I'm saying that respectfully. I'm not trying to belittle you or anything like that, but you would simply be answering incorrectly. And therefore, if you don't have a full knowledge of what it is you're talking about, then you shouldn't give an answer. You should say, be humble and say, you know what, I can't answer that. Okay. And so it's the same thing that you would have someone do if you ask them about brain surgery. Well, none of us are brain surgeons, and therefore we know what brain surgery is, and we can talk about it a little bit, but we're going to be very limited as to what it is that we can actually give that's actual true knowledge about brain surgery.
It's a simple question. It's just a simple question. What are your opinions on apostates? What do you think should happen to apostates? Now look, it's simple. I've sat in masjids where this question is not obviously asked because nobody's going to ask it in the congregation, but the imams just said clear and cut. And this is not some kind of weird sect of Islam.
Okay.
This is mainstream. No, one minute. This is mainstream Sunni mosques, right? These are run by Saudi Arabian government type mosques, whatever you want to call them, and it's quite clear. Apostates, according to the Quran, it's the death penalty. Now, on top of that, they will add on, because we live in a foreign country like Britain or Scotland, I would say, you have to abide by the laws of the country. So we can't just go and kill G25. We have to, let them live. But the fact of the matter is, if I was in Saudi Arabia right now, or any of those other countries that you mentioned that follow Sharia law, my opinion would be, from what I've learned from 43 years, is that I would be killed. Now, what's your opinion about that?
So it's really simple, which is, for one, based on the laws of the land, first and foremost, which is in agreement with Sharia. If the death penalty, or putting someone to death for apostasy is the laws of the land, then it's the laws of the land. But what you are trying to do is trying to apply it to just Islam in general, where you're trying to suggest, I'm not saying any of you right now are trying to suggest this, but what I'm trying to say is that this is a common misconception, which is that if you don't accept Islam, if you don't accept Sharia, if you leave Islam, then you're going to be put to death. And that's ridiculous. That is not.
Oh, right, that's it then. So you've just answered the question. So your opinion is that it's ridiculous. So you think that what's written in the Quran, that apostates should be killed, is ridiculous? Because I feel
put any words in my mouth.
No, but you said it.
Any words
Well,
in my
you
mouth.
put your own words in your mouth then.
No, I did not. Let me explain it again for the layman, okay? And make it plain and simple for the layman. You ready? If we live in a country in which the death penalty is required for those who commit apostasy.
From Islam. From Islam.
Right. Okay, right. So that's what you're trying to apply it to. But once again, if there's no war taking place, then there's no reason for anyone to be put to death for leaving Islam.
Okay, Kenny, you might
not like.
No, I do. I want to learn. I want you to teach. Listen, you might be the one that brings me back in. Fantastic, right? Okay. But you can't just say go to uni to learn about the war.
Plain and simply. Plain and simply, let me explain it to you. For one, you already know the verses, which is quite common, and I'm going to repeat it again. There is no compulsion in religion. Let me speak. Okay, I'm going to tell you what happened with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam after they returned from Medina with 10,000 Muslims coming back to Mecca. The Muslims, the Sahaba, come to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask him, "What do we do about the Jews and the Christians?" He said, "You allow them their freedom." Okay, you allow them their freedom. There's no compulsion in religion, and so therefore, there's no compulsion from those who were never Muslims. There's actually no compulsion for those who claim to be Muslims.
Right, Kenny, we're talking about apostasy. I know, but
you just cut me off. You just cut me off before I gave you the full explanation. And so, if you're in wartime, and someone leaves the Muslim ranks, and they left the Muslim ranks, and they go and they are revealing secrets of the Muslims in regards to where's the location of the Muslims, what are their provisions, what type of armaments do they have, what are their defenses, and all those things, and you catch this person, then this person will be put to death. But there's also another stipulation. The Muslims themselves would have to have heard this individual make these claims, would have to have heard this individual speaking against Islam or speaking against the Muslims, and would have actually had to catch that person. When is that ever going to happen? When is someone going to betray their country or betray the group that they claim that they were a part of, and the group that they are part of actually hears them do such a thing? That doesn't take place.
I understand.
So therefore,
so you makes it almost. The Quran doesn't say it. You just heard it from somebody somewhere who told you this. It's not in the Quran. It's nowhere. It's just that somebody else made it up. Okay, why can't you just be honest? Why can't you just say, no, I don't know why?
So what it is,
Kenny, you answered my question in that fashion where I asked you where it is for the wartime. You've answered it in a roundabout way, but I understand. So just let's be clear. Let's just say King Kenny has his own Sharia state in. You're from Texas, so let's just say, for example, Texas becomes a Sharia state, and you're now the what's it called, the leader of the Muslims, the Khalifa, right? But you would stipulate that you've not to kill people like me or apostates because it's not wartime, and I'm not sharing secrets. Do you know how ridiculous that would sound, like to other Muslims around it?
Well, do you know how ridiculous it sounds to claim that someone is to be put to death just simply because they have left Islam? That's even more ridiculous.
That's what's written.
That's far-fetched. No, it's not written that way.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I'm trying to tell you that in order for you to speak on a subject, you have to study the subject. And how do you study the subject? By studying what? I'm going to tell you again. It's called analytical tafsir, analytical interpretation of each and every verse of the Quran. If you do that, then you'll have a true understanding about what it is that you're talking about. If you have not done that, you have no right to speak on a subject that you have no true authority to speak on. And so what I'm telling you is based on Islam and the stipulations through the Hadith and the Quran itself. And that's just a fact. You may not want to hear it. It may blow you out of the water. It may make you look foolish in front of the people that listen to you. But that's the truth.
It's not like that for me, right? For me, especially, just talking about myself, I'm happy you're explaining yourself. That is fantastic. All I'm trying to, and you know, like what you're saying, I'm not trying to make fun of it at all. I just asked you what your opinion was, and you told me that. Now,
well, okay. Let me just.
But just to go one step further, do you appreciate that? not everyone's going to this university that you're going to, or this imam that you're listening to is listening. But the majority, now I mean the majority of, let's just say, Muslims in Britain do not agree with you, right, at all. They're probably listening to you thinking, where is he getting this source from? And they probably think of you as that.
You can make that claim, but
can you at least accept that?
No, I can't accept that. You know, let me tell you why. Because there's no way for you to put a figure on that number of people. There's no way for you to state. You can barely state what you think on your own. And I'm not saying that derogatory. I'm saying just period. And therefore, you have no authority to say what masses of people think about anything that I've said.
Right. Okay, let me put it another way. Let me put it another way, because I'm going to let Steve have a shot as well, because I know he wants to say something. But I just want to say it another way, right? Now, this is just, and again, I'm not being facetious. I'm just trying to give you from where I'm looking at, because I was a Muslim, and I'm trying to see where I would have been if I was listening to you. Now, for example, not where I was, but there was plenty of Muslims where I live that would have said, well, you're not a true Muslim right now because you've got a picture of yourself, right? Now, you know, many Muslims will regard that as, you know, against Islam. Correct?
Okay, so
I'm just saying. So you just got to accept that.
Let me answer this. Okay, so in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do not go to extremes in your religion. What does that mean? Do not be ridiculous. Don't be just simply ridiculous, okay? And therefore, some people will make the claim that if you don't step into the masjid with your right foot, then you're committing a sin. Well, that's ridiculous. Let's not.
Why is that ridiculous? Why is that ridiculous?
Well, because people have varying levels of intellect. They have varying levels of understanding. And if you haven't studied these things deeply, you don't, just like you said before, you know, your issue was not Islam. Your issue was not spending the time. Remember I said, I repeated al-Asr. It says, by the token of time, verily man is in loss. Okay, because why? Because man doesn't utilize his time properly. If you were to utilize that time, hold on. If you
I get what you're saying. I get.
You don't get what I'm saying. You've cut me off.
No, I'm not cutting you off. I'm saying you've answered my question.
Let me make my point. You can't get what I'm saying unless you let me finish what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to say that I've understood.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to make a point to you in particular, which is the reason you. I'm not saying that. Let's put it like this: if you were to utilize your time properly, if you were to utilize your time instead of whatever it is you were doing, I'm going to talk in general terms. If men were, instead of going to the club and chasing women and drinking alcohol and doing all the things they do, if they would engage themselves in actual truth study and trying to find the truth and go to about topics that really matter in our lives, then they would be utilizing their time in the best of manners. So that's why Allah tells us in the Quran, by the token of time, by the gift of time, the token is a gift, right? By the gift of time, verily man is in loss. Why? Because he does not seek knowledge.
All right,
therefore, can I just knowledge? You're limiting yourself.
I know, but I don't want to take up all the time as well, but you said about stepping in with your right foot. Now, I just want to pick up on that point. You said that's ridiculous. Now, there is a huge sect of Muslims. They're called Tabligh. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I haven't heard of them.
They're our form of Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll go to other Muslim houses in different towns and cities and invite them to the mosque. And they're very, very they follow the hadiths a lot. Now, you know, not my family, but my in-laws and that are very much into that. Now, just to sort of clarify, that's a huge sect. They come from Pakistan, but that's a huge sect. You've just called all of them ridiculous. You've just called all of them, like, you know, whatever word you use. And I would say, well, that's wrong as well then, because how can you single-handedly just say all those guys? Now, we're talking millions, right? You can Google this yourself.
Let's put it like this. Okay, I'll explain it very easily, which is there's 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, the vast majority of which are Sunni. I could care less what someone calls themselves, be it Shia or Sunni or you know, this small group that you've mentioned. They're certainly in the minority of those who call themselves Muslims. But I'm going to revert back to what does the Quran say? It says there's no let there be no invocation in the religion. If there's any changes are not allowed. Anything where someone deviates from
But you're, now you're going to, no, but you're going to, listen, I know where you're going, but I just want to say this one thing. Okay, listen, right? I'm not a tabligh, but listen, they're Sunni, right? Okay, listen, they're Sunni, they're a huge group. All I'm trying to say is that you single-handedly, now here, let me just say this. Let's just say when you reverted, let's say you stepped into one of their mosques. Right now, you would be saying, "Oh, you must step in with your right." And they say lots of things, but you must step in with your right foot. So all I'm saying is, can't you?
And I would tell them, just like I've told you, the Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, far above any group or any individual, or any people that you're talking about. It says, do not go to extremes in your religion. Do not make things hard on yourself. Do not be ridiculous about your religion. That's plain and simple. So what does it truly matter in the big picture as far as the day of judgment goes? What foot someone steps into a building with? Absolutely not.
But you called it ridiculous. That's what you called it.
Ridiculous. And I'll say it again. I'll say that again, and you can put.
No, I'm not trying to quote you and put a big quote up. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that because if you are tunnel visioning this, right? Now listen,
brother,
I'm with you. No, listen, I'm with you. Now, let me just say this one wee bit. Right? I'm with you on this, right? So listen, Islam is beautiful. Islam is great. You know, we've got a way of life. We don't go clubbing. We don't look at chase after women. Fantastic. But within that, you've just single-handedly just called a huge group of people ridiculous. But for what reason? Just to prove this little point. What I'm saying to you is that you need to come out this tunnel vision that you're in this university. You can be a Muslim with diverse thoughts and acceptance.
Don't get me wrong. That for one, there's things to learn about Islam continually, and which is why what does Allah tell us? To continually seek knowledge. It tells us this over and over and over again, and repeats it over and over again in various ways, and tells us to continually seek knowledge. But what I'm trying to tell you, and I would debate this with any Muslim or anyone else respectfully, and tell them that in the big picture, it does not matter which foot one steps into a mosque with. It just simply does not matter.
So, Kenny, one of the things I've noticed while the other panelists have chatted to you is you're making seemingly absolute or knowledge statements, but you're not giving us information that we can go and verify. So you keep talking about the university and this thing's a fact and this thing's known and so forth. And maybe you weren't prepared for it or whatever the case is. What I would like for you to do if you come on again is to have some references that you can quote to us that we can also look. Because here's the problem, Kenny. One of the answers that you made earlier seems to be, and Stops pointed it out in a different way, but seems to me to be a complete contradiction. If this God is all-knowing and sent down, presumably wanted his message, I'm assuming, and I'm going to ask it to you in a question format, did this God want his message to be understood by every human on this planet?
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let me clarify. So anyone who's an atheist, I'm sure they're going to try to question why did God do this? And why would God do that? And why is there crime? And why does little kids get abused?
I'm not even going there yet, but I'm going to ask you my question. Yes, but I'm not even worried about this moment in time.
So
specifically about the book.
So the book,
the Quran. Yep.
What about it? Okay, so in regards to the Quran, that's what I was going to get at, which is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, tells us in the Quran that he's created man. He created men and the jinn to do nothing but to worship him, and we worship him in various ways. Okay, and therefore, it basically boils down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, wanting us to recognize that he exists. He exists in this life, and that and that we basically do nothing in this life without his will, and therefore, throughout our lives, we're going to be presented with various tests and trials. And part of those tests and trials is, for some people, they may have a child that's born and they're handicapped, or they're deformed or whatever. Someone may be born blind, and on down the line, we could give them a million different examples. Hold on. Yeah. So, what I'm trying to explain this is, which is that our God, our creator, doesn't need us to all be perfect, because for the ones who are presented with a child that may be blind, or they may be blind themselves, that within itself is a means to draw them to our God, our creator. And let me explain why.
No, can you stop there for a moment? I understand that. I understand you can make the claim about a test, and the people that are not perfect, etc., it's just a test for them, and God is testing them, and they'll get greater glory. I understand that. That's not the question I asked. So let me ask it again, so that we focus on the question I actually asked you, which was not about the suffering of people or the fact that they're, that some of them are not perfect. If this message was sent down for all people to understand, I'm not worried about whether they're blind or whatever, then surely everybody can understand it by reading the Quran itself. But when I hear you speak, you say people have to go to university, there's a tafsir, there's this, that, and the other. My question is, I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. I'm not a genius, etc. I should be able to read this Quran and understand it clearly.
Okay, so
that's a problem.
Yeah, I understood your question, and I was actually answering your question by drawing some examples. Okay, and so part of that is, as I mentioned before, because we have varying levels of intellect. Okay, we have varying levels of intellect, and that's by our God, our Creator's design. Okay, so it would be fools to try to question the one who created us. Okay, so plain and simply, let me explain this. And so therefore, because people have varying levels of intellect, some people just simply have a very low reading comprehension, and as I mentioned before, they read something 10 times, they just don't understand it. They just don't understand it. And then you have all kind of variations in between. And you have some people, they read something one time and they got a very good vocabulary and they understand it and they fully absorb what's being said. And therefore, what is the test there? The test is for the one who has trouble understanding, for that person to continue to seek knowledge, and the one who does have the understanding to share the knowledge. And so once again, everything is a test, intertwined. Everything all works together actually beautifully if one opens the mind to understand that. And stop trying to nitpick every little thing and say, well, why does this happen? Why does this happen? Well, if you're questioning why these things take place, well, look into it more. And actually, I do applaud you for even asking such a question. And those are types of questions that should be asked. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the ability to answer it in a manner which is understandable, which is that we all have a responsibility to seek knowledge. The very first thing ever revealed in the Quran was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Which means, okay, so that's disrespectful. What I'm trying to tell you is the very first thing ever revealed was Iqra, which is what? Read.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
No, you do not.
But what are you talking about?
You are making stuff up.
No, I am not making stuff up.
Okay, prove
this is linked.
The first word that was ever revealed. How do you even plan to verify this?
Oh, very simply. And this is such ignorance that's coming out of your mouth. And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about.
Stop addressing me. Address the point. Show me proof.
Right, exactly. So you be quiet for about 30 seconds, and I'm going to shut you up for sure. Okay, because what I'm telling you is based on what chains of narration of the Quran itself, as well as the Hadith, all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, where he stated in the Hadith legitimate chains of narration all the way back to the Prophet himself, with no broken chain of narration, and revealed the fact that the angel Gabriel came to him, and the very first words said to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was what? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you consider the hadiths to be authentic? Okay, cool. Now,
not all of them.
Okay, I'm talking about Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you agree then that Muhammad married a 6-year-old and had sex with a 9-year-old?
I'm not going to get into your straw man fallacies, and I'm not going to, because for one,
do you know what a straw man fallacy is?
I do know what a straw man fallacy is. Do you?
Well, you don't, because you're just telling me that I'm quoting from the hadith and you're calling it a straw man.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is you're quoting from a hadith, and you don't realize the fact that there's some Muslim scholars that believe that Aisha was possibly the age of 19. Okay,
I know that. I know all these fairy tales. That's why I first asked you.
So what does the Islamophobe do?
That's why I
Right.
first asked you whether Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim for you are authentic. And you
Okay, so
said
let me-
yes. Now you're saying no.
No, I did not say that. Let me explain myself. In regards to Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. It to me doesn't matter if she was 6 years old when he took her as his wife, or if she was 19 years old. What matters to me is when the marriage was consummated. Okay, and so the marriage being consummated is based on her level of maturity. Levels of maturity during that period of time is different than levels of maturity in this period of time. Other
Really?
things,
How do you know that?
absolutely.
Evidence for that being?
If you study this, then you'll understand why I said
I've studied it and I found this to be wrong.
If you studied it and you found it to be wrong, where did you study it? Because earlier, where did you study it at?
It's called a university.
You studied this particular topic about
I
the
studied
genetic makeup
biology.
of females. You studied biology. Do you have a degree in biology? And
Yes.
through what university? What
And now
university
what?
is this? What university is this?
Oh my fucking hell.
Well,
Just tell me where your evidence is for your claim that girls 1,000 years ago had 10-year difference in menstruation.
I didn't say 10 years difference in menstruation. I didn't. So don't put words in my mouth. What I did say is based on levels of maturity within the individual. The individual has to be mentally, mature, has to be physically mature, and all that amounts to being what spiritually mature.
Okay, was she 9, yes or no?
And I don't know, I wasn't there, and neither was you.
Okay, according to the hadith, Sahih hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, it says yes. And you are saying, well, I say yes, but now I'm saying no. You're contradicting yourself again.
No, I didn't say that. What I told you was it doesn't matter her age.
Okay, I'm asking you a question, a fact question.
Not
whether it matters, I'm asking you a fact question. Was she 9, yes or no?
I told you that I can't answer that because I wasn't there.
Okay, another question you can't answer. Let me ask you another question that you might not be able to answer. In Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Muhammad encourages his men to rape female captives. Do you think that is a good move?
No, it doesn't. That's a weak chain of narration, and no, it does not.
It's in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
It's a weak chain of narration, like I mentioned.
It's in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So I asked you whether everything in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari is authentic. You said yes. Now you're saying
I didn't tell you everything in each of those books was authentic. Don't put words in my mouth. What I told you is
exactly what you said.
No, I did not tell you. I didn't use the phrase everything is authentic in those books. I did not say that. Don't put words in my mouth. The vast majority of the authentic chains of narration are in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, period. That's what I said.
So Muhammad had never encouraged his men to rape female captives?
No, he did not.
Okay, even if it says so dozens of times in different Bukhari and Muslim.
There's no oppression in religion. If it goes against the Quran, absolutely he did not.
Does the Quran say that you are not allowed to rape female captives?
It absolutely is. There's no oppression in religion.
Please tell me the sentence in the Quran.
There's no oppression in religion.
That does not mean that you're not allowed to rape female captives.
Sure it does. If you can't oppress anyone in any regard, then surely rape falls into that category.
Oh, what about the ones who are supposed to be crucified and the hands and feet and opposite sides to be cut off? That doesn't count?
Once again, you're talking about something that you have no knowledge of.
Yeah, you're contradicting yourself once again.
No, I am not. I didn't contradict anything. I just told you that you're talking about a subject. You're talking about a subject you have very limited and very layman.
Hang on. Let me ask you two last questions, okay? If I, for example, take slavery, which is going to a different country, burning down the village, destroying the tribe, killing the men and the boys, keeping only the women, raping the women, taking them back to your country, selling them on the slave market as objects. Is that something that fits into the Europe of the 21st century?
I don't know anything about Europe, to be quite honest.
Does it fit into the US of A in the 21st century?
No, but if you're trying to apply that to Islam, then you are try to
I just
utilize
asked you a
straw man
question.
fallacy.
Do you think that the slavery I defined fits into the US of A of the 21st century?
Well, of course not.
Okay. Do you think a book that would describe it, if a book were to describe this, would that book fit into the 21st century to the US of A?
And the Quran does not describe that.
I didn't mention the Quran. I said if a book were to do that, would that book fit into the 21st century?
If a book was trying to propagate and promote slavery and raping of women, of course it wouldn't fit. It doesn't fit in any century.
I didn't say that. I asked if the slavery I just defined is described in a book, would that book fit into the US of A in the 21st century?
Oh, is that what you asked?
That's what I asked.
Kenny, we can't hear you. Are you there? Hello?
I think he's gone.
No, he's rejoined with another account, I think.
No, it's the same. The same what happened to me just now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got kicked out. Repeat your question, because a maid was trying to come in my door. Maybe I didn't understand your question. So repeat your question again. What did you say?
The question is very simple. If do you remember how I defined slavery?
No, go ahead. Repeat. Literally trying to. I have the door locked, and she was still trying to come in. But go ahead. It's just a reality. Go ahead.
Do you remember how I defined slavery?
No, and I've already answered that. So repeat your statement.
Okay, slavery is if you go to a different country, you burn down the village, you kill everybody in the tribe except some young women, you bring them back to your country, raping them on the way a couple of times, and then you sell them on the local slave market as objects. That is what I call slavery, okay? And the question that I asked, if a book were to propagate this, would that book fit into 21st century US?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat again that the Quran does not suggest any of that stuff that you just mentioned. So if you're trying to create a straw man fallacy, once again,
I'm not trying to create a straw man. Asking a normal question.
Obviously, the book, the principles behind that book, no, that wouldn't be good if it's promoting that type of activity. No,
thank you.
The Quran doesn't fall into that category. So let's clarify that the Quran does not fall into that category. Period. And you could try to twist and turn that and try to, instead of critiquing, and try to attack any way that you possibly think you can. But the truth shines bright. That's just the fact of the matter. The Quran doesn't say anything that you just said.
I appreciate your interactions there as well, G. Kenny's come on here. He came here originally to come and tell us where we were wrong. I'm listening here attentively, and I haven't heard where we're wrong. What I have heard Kenny repeat multiple times is that you've got to go and study at a university, and it's all a fact. Whatever the university said is clearly true, and anything that when you don't go to, quote unquote, whoever decides who the established places are, if you don't go there, then obviously you're attacking Islam and you're getting your information incorrect. And when we're asking you, Kenny, for actual data or specifics, I haven't heard it. So I have had you repeat that, but you came on specifically to tell us where we're wrong, and so far I haven't heard that.
Okay, well, I've told you where you're wrong in regards to apostasy, plain and simply. Okay, I've told you I've studied the jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence regarding apostasy. I've told you where I've studied it at Michigan University.
Okay, so
I've studied. Matter of fact, I suggest if you want to study it yourself, then study Analytical Tafsir 2 at Michigan University, and it covers this very thing that we're talking about. So I've given you a legitimate source. Let me finish talking.
No, because you're waffling. You're always explaining for half an hour. Apostasy, right. You made a claim. You said you have shown us where we are wrong on apostasy.
Right. I have showed you where you're wrong. Now it's up to you. If you doubt what I'm telling you, then go ahead and study it and look into it. If you can prove that I'm wrong, we'll do it. I'll come on next week and give you a whole. I'll give you. You've looked at it where?
Look at the hadith.
Facebook.
Does it say
you've looked at it on Facebook?
Yes or no?
Okay, in the hadith that you're looking at, does it have a verified, legitimate, strong chain of narration?
Both the Islam and the contents are claimed to be authentic by Islamic scholars, yes.
what we can do, you and I, if you want to debate me about this particular topic, then you come with your source. You come with your sources, and I'll come with my proofs.
I
and
have
we can
the
break
hadith,
it down.
authentic hadith. It says
which
kill
ones?
them.
Which ones? Name it. Read it.
Do you want me to
Who
look it
wrote
up quickly?
What's the chain of narration? In order to quote the hadith, you have to give the source. You have to give the chain of narration, and is it legitimate?
Kenny,
that's plain and simple. That's plain and simple. That's jurisprudence.
What if I can?
Jurisprudence.
What if I can? Then what?
If you can, then you meet me back here next week at same time, same place, and we'll talk about it.
And then what? Then you're going to accept that Muhammad said, go ahead and rape female captives, go ahead and kill.
No, what we're going to do.
You will accept this if I give you those. He's not. No,
I'm not going to accept any of that because none of that happened. And so, if you want to debate this, hey, if you want to debate this, I could write a story about you robbing the bank down the street, and I could get 3 or 4 other people to write the same story, and it may be a little bit different. And does that mean that you robbed the bank down the street? Absolutely not. If you want to debate me about this, I'm challenging you to a debate right now. If you want to show and prove, let's get busy.
Let's go. We're doing it now. I'm asking you questions and you can't answer a single question.
Because I don't know what hadith you're talking about. You haven't showed me the hadith. I haven't looked into the hadith to verify if it's got a legitimate chain of narration. I told you that it's got to be a strong chain of narration. It's got to be a legitimate hadith and it's accepted by the scholars. It's got to fall under jurisprudence. There's rules of engagement. And therefore, if you want to debate me, you bring that and let's do it.
You just told me I will bring this, and then you're not going to accept it.
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
You just told me.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the opportunity to show and prove. Okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity to prove yourself. If you would like to do so,
I'm going to give you the Quran.
Do you want to debate me on this particular subject? I would love to. Would you like to do that?
On what particular subject?
This claim that you're making about people being raped and pillaged and it being somehow in agreement with the hadith in the Quran, and you're attacking Islam in the process. So
I'm not attacking Islam. I am just quoting.
Yes, you are attacking Islam. What you're
I
quoting.
Attacking.
What I'm trying to tell you, I've already told you, is plain and simple. There's legitimate and strong chains of narration in the hadith, and there's weak chains of narration in the hadith. There's actually some hadith that have been fabricated, that aren't real at all, that are written by known liars. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
No, I don't understand what you're telling me. I'm stupid. Exactly. I don't understand these things.
Right. Okay. So obviously, if I was to write a story about you right now robbing the bank, I would be lying in that story, right? That's the same thing that has happened in some of the hadith, the unauthentic hadith that have a weak chain of narration written by known liars. So not knowing what hadith, what numbers, and all those things that I would need to look into, prove your source, and then next week, next week I'll come on and we'll get busy.
And then I will show you a complete chain of narrators, and I will show you how many scholars have deemed this to be authentic, how many times it's been accepted, and then what's going to happen then.
Okay, you make all the claims that you can right now.
No, not claims. I'm going to show you.
Until we see it, and when you show it to me, then we'll take it to the next stage.
What is the next stage?
Well, you're going to be proven wrong.
How can you prove me wrong? If you've told me, if I bring you a white piece of paper, and then you say, yes, it's a white piece of paper, but now it's wrong.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to look into the sources that you provide. So what happens in a debate? Have you ever engaged in a debate before?
No, I'm stupid.
Right. Okay, well, that's you saying that. So I'm going to, whatever. So if you've engaged in a debate, then we have a particular topic, and you let me know what your topic is concerning and what subject matter you're going to cover, and I'm going to rebuttal that. I'm going to rebut that. Okay.
The easiest topic that I can think of that everybody
I challenge you once again to a legitimate debate. We're not going to talk.
The easiest topic. Okay, can I have like 15 seconds?
Sure, go ahead.
Without you interrupting, 15 seconds. The easiest topic that everybody can talk about, that everybody can participate in, that is very easy to research, that everybody can look into within a couple of seconds is chapter 4, and it is sentence number 11, 12, and 176. Show me how inheritance is correct. Finished.
Plain and simply, women get less in inheritance.
No, next week. You said you need to prepare this. Next week.
No, I could tell you this answer right now. But if you want to wait till next week, then next week I'm going to shut you down next week.
Okay,
and when I shut you down, I want you to get a T-shirt with my picture on it, and you got to wear it on the following show. How about that?
I will do that. If you shut me down,
all right. I'm going to shut you down next week.
I will do that.
Is that what the Quran says? Or are you supposed to be delivering this in a mild and nice way?
The thing is,
straying from the Quran now?
No, what I'm going to do is I have every right that when someone is distorting the truth, I have every right to meet that with the same aggression. Never become the aggressor.
So to speak, you want to meet it at whatever level you think it's coming in at. Is that the way?
Yeah, but to never become the aggressor. You understand what I'm saying by that? He's cussed me. I haven't cussed him. He's cussed in the conversation. He can cuss me. I'm not going to cuss him. But what I'm telling you, I haven't said anything disrespectful to him. Haven't insulted him in any way. What I have done is challenge him to a legitimate debate, to where he has every opportunity to have a period of time to talk and say whatever he thinks he wants to say. And then I'm going to do the same thing.
Kenny, he's brought this up. I've researched this as well. Okay, this is a legitimate mathematical error in the Quran. Okay, there's no way to dance around this. I've researched it. He's done both looked at it.
Okay, so next week.
Okay, fair enough. Kenny, are you unable to do it now? If you're unable to, then fine.
I don't want to do it right now. My mouth is dry, and I don't want to do it right now. But next week we'll get busy.
Okay, another question from the chat. I'm being asked to ask you something. Do you think that, for example, you've mentioned this description of nature in the Quran, that this is correct? Like, for example, mountains. If it says mountains are pegs and that they are put on top of the earth and they are stopping earthquakes and things like that, do you think that is accurate?
Absolutely do. And I'm going to base that on a book that I actually have in my hand right now by Alhamdulillah, and it's actually a book that covers a variety of different scientific miracles in the Quran.
Please tell me it's bouquet.
It's what?
Please tell me it's bouquet.
It's bouquet?
Yes.
No,
okay, what is the book?
It's called A Brief Illustrated Guide to Understanding Islam. And it's a simple book. I have this book to give to people when I'm doing Dawah. But in this book, it talks about scientific miracles in the Quran, and it's actually got references.
Come on, really?
Hold on.
You believe this?
Absolutely.
Oh boy, you believe all this shit with embryology and come on.
In regards to embryology, I would suggest that you pick up a book by Dr. Keith Moore and study his findings.
Developing Human, the 3rd edition, you mean?
Yes, absolutely. Have you read it?
With Islamic editions by Sheikh Azindani?
Have you read it?
Yes. Okay. Listen, Kenny, I've told you.
Are you one that hears without hearing and one that sees without seeing? It's not a question that you're certainly one that would be laughing and trying to simply I don't know even who I'm talking to, and I don't know what your belief is.
It doesn't matter.
But obviously it does matter, because obviously you're one who does not believe in a creator, because why? You see yourself as self-sufficient, as though you have a purpose in this life.
Stop preaching.
Well, I'm just telling you the facts.
No, you're not telling me the facts. You're lying.
You see yourself as self-sufficient, right? You don't need a creator. You don't have to answer to anyone. And therefore,
we just need plants. We don't need a creator. The plants give us oxygen and carbohydrate. We don't need a creator, just plants.
Okay, and the one who actually provided those for you.
Okay. I think, again, we're going all over the show.
Yes, absolutely. Because this is unbelievable. How can anybody today in the 21st century, in 2018, still come to me with Keith L. Moore? Really? I mean, that's outrageous.
That's refuted such a lot. I mean, I'm surprised. You talk about doing your research. It sounds like you've never heard any rebuttals against Keith Moore. I mean, that's been utterly rebutted. He didn't, as far as I can remember, he didn't even become a Muslim. So,
and he rebutted himself. It's only the 3rd edition that was modified by a Muslim in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way until I've got the 8th edition here, but all the way until the 10th edition. He says the Quran is just a collection of myths, along with what the Babylonians and the Greeks say. That's all he says. So you have 3 sentences about the Quran in the entire book, The Developing Human. He refuted himself because it's only the 3rd edition, which you can't buy anywhere. It's only available in Islamic bookstores. It's not available anywhere else. And then somebody here, I mean, you must be a real idiotic, ignorant guy to come with to this show and tell me about Keith L. Moore.
Where did you get it, and what are your credentials in regards to Keith L. Moore? And where'd you get the book?
It doesn't matter what my credentials are.
Where did you get the book? Is the last thing I asked you. Where did you get the book?
I just told you I lived in the Middle East.
So you have Keith Moore's book.
No, I don't have Keith Moore's
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So you haven't read the book.
I have the book here.
You have it where?
Here in front of me.
Well, I just asked you, where did you get the book? Where did you buy the book?
Amazon? Hang on, what are we talking about? I'm talking about the 3rd edition. I'm talking about the red book.
I'm asking you, it doesn't matter which book it is. I'm asking you, where did you...
No, it doesn't matter because there are huge differences. In the 3rd edition, which is enhanced by Azindani, which is totally different to all the other editions that he has.
Which editions do you have?
The 8th edition.
The 8th edition. Do you have the other editions? And have you read them?
I have not read them. I only have the 8th edition here. I have it in front of me.
Right.
Here, the Developing Clinical 8th edition. What do you want to know? Introduction to the human development is a continuous process that begins with an oocyte of the ovum, for example, which he mentions here, is not mentioned in the Quran. From a female which is fertilization, not mentioned in the Quran, by a spermatozoon from a male, not mentioned in the Quran. Cell migration, programmed cell death, differentiating growth, and cell rearrangement transform the fertilized oocyte, a highly specialized totipotent cell, a zygote, not mentioned in the Quran, into a multicellular human being. Although most developmental changes occur during the embryonic and fetal. I mean, I can read it. I have it in front of me.
Right. Let me ask you this: does it say anything about the construction of buildings in the Quran, or how to make a cell phone in the Quran, or in that book? Does it?
This is about the developing human.
What I'm telling you is it doesn't. All those things don't have to be mentioned in the Quran. The Quran makes mention of the embryo in 4 different places, and
they're all wrong.
No, they weren't wrong. They were actually.
I just showed you that they're wrong.
Accurate. The mere fact. No, you didn't. You told me some stuff that wasn't in the Quran. Okay, but the stuff that is in the Quran is actually confirmed by science. And who?
Okay, one fact. Give me one.
Guess
one.
What?
Just one.
More. The embryo is confirmed by science.
Okay, give me one. Give me one thing that is mentioned in the Quran that is correct. One.
There's a bunch of them.
No, one. I just want one.
Okay, the embryos, bodies of water that do not transgress one another.
One. Just give me one.
The weight of clouds. What are you asking me? I'm telling you.
I am asking for one fact that is in the Quran that is correct.
Right. So, in regards to the science of the Quran, no one in over 1,400 years has proved the Quran to have one flaw, one mistake, or
I just showed you.
No, you have not.
I just showed you.
Let me ask you something.
The Quran is completely wrong.
On May 18, 2018, you finally have proved the Quran wrong. Where's your book? And where you really?
My book is on the book. It doesn't fucking matter. Give me one thing that is correct.
about the mountains. Everything's correct.
Okay, give me one.
I can't.
One statement. Just one. I'm just asking. Come on. I've got tears in my eyes. Give me one thing that is correct in the Quran. One.
Everything is correct in the Quran.
Just give me one. Yes, I can't believe it. You're all over the show. You're saying the science has confirmed everything is right, but you can't give me one.
I'm going to repeat.
No, don't repeat. Give me one example. Just one.
Can he choose
what is said about the mountains is correct. What's said
just
about the way?
Give me one sentence that it's correct. Just one sentence in the Quran.
Kenny, there seems to be a communication error here. Stops us asking for one single claim that is correct. Can you read one from the Quran, like a verse from the Quran that you believe is scientifically accurate, that we can then look at?
Okay, bear with me 1 second. All right.
Just a side note.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So it says in Surah 41, verse 11, it says, "Then he turned to the heaven when it was smoke," and that's a proven fact. And
that's totally wrong.
No, it was not. No, it's not wrong. Let me go ahead and expound upon this. It says,
what is the verse again, Kenny? What is the verse? Look it up.
41:11. 41:11. The origin of the universe, the science of modern cosmology, observational of theoretical clearly theoretical clearly indicates that at one point in time the whole universe was nothing but a cloud of smoke.
Oh, that's wrong.
An opaque, highly dense and hot gaseous composition.
No,
this is one of the
that is wrong. It's everything that is wrong.
Okay, well let me keep reading because I'm going to give you the source and the reference. You ready? Right. It says
number one.
Let me finish.
What does the sentence in front of it say?
Let me finish.
Kenny, what does it say before that?
Let me finish.
Let me show you very quickly how it's wrong.
Let me finish. It says this is one of the undisputed principles of standard modern cosmology. It says scientists now can observe new stars forming out of the remnants of that smoke.
That's wrong.
The illuminating stars we see at night were just as the whole universe in that smoke material. It says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained in the Quran that he had turned to the heaven when it was smoke. Because of the earth and the heavens above, the sun and the moon.
Don't read the whole book. Well, Kenny, why can't you just read the sentence before that?
Before what? Before what? In the Quran?
Yes.
You read it.
Do you indeed disbelieve in he who created the earth in 2 days and attribute to him equals? That is the Lord of the worlds. So in other words, we're talking about the earth which was created, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then it says, and he placed there on the earth firmly set mountains over it. Oh shit, I'm in the wrong thing. Shit.
Right.
So we're talking about the earth. And then he says, and then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke.
Right.
So earth was already formed. And then it says, while it was smoke, and he says to the earth, come willingly or by compulsion. And they said, we come willingly. Can you show me a textbook in cosmology, in geology or something where the earth talks?
No, but what I'm going to do, watch this. It says, because the earth and the heavens above have been formed from that same smoke, we conclude that the earth and the heavens were one connected entity. Now listen what it says. Then out of that homogeneous smoke, they formed and separated from each other. And
do you know what smoke is? Do you know what smoke is?
It says, Allah in the Quran says, have not those who disbelieved known that the heavens and the earth were one connected entity, and then we separated them?
They were not. This is also wrong.
Prove it.
It's how can
I tell you what,
that is false.
Then you debate with Dr. Alfred Kroner, who's one of the world's renowned geologists, about this.
And he says this.
He's a professor of geology and
yes, I know. I spoke to him.
Right, Department of Geology at the Institute of.
He's in Mainz. He's at the University of Mainz. I know him. I spoke to him.
Right. Okay. And he said, this is a quote: thinking where Muhammad came from, I think it is most impossible that he could have known about these things like the common origin of the universe, because scientists...
Exactly. It's impossible that he knew this.
Right, because scientists have only found out within the last few years with a very complicated and advanced technological methods that this is the case.
Yes,
and so
this is what he said. He said
right.
It's impossible for Muhammad to know this, which is correct.
Right. So
that's why Muhammad is wrong.
I know what you're trying to. I know what you're trying to say in your sarcasm, but I totally disagree.
No, also, I'm just looking at facts. Okay, listen. What is smoke? Do you know what smoke is?
The Dr. Alfred Kroner goes on to say,
it doesn't matter what he says. What is smoke? I don't care what Alfred says. Give me.
Right. That's the point. That's my point right there. That's my point. It doesn't matter what the truth is. You don't care.
No,
you're going to argue. You know, that's the point. That's the point. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done with it, because that's the point. You don't care because when the truth is staring you in the face, you hear but you don't hear, and you see but you don't see.
He did not say what you say he says.
I just read it quote for quote. This is Dr. Alfred Kroner.
He said it's impossible.
No, he didn't say it's right. He said it's impossible that a man that would have. You understand the context of what he said? He said he's saying that it's impossible that a man could know this.
Yes.
Therefore, right, a man couldn't know this, but our God, our Creator, that gave him this revelation, knew it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and
blessings, know this.
Was only repeating what he heard. He was unlearned. He couldn't read or write, so he was only repeating. He was only repeating what was revealed to him through the angel Gabriel. That's just a fact. For one, I'm a grown man. You don't tell me to shut up.
I'm telling you to shut up.
No, you don't tell me to shut up.
On my tits, because what you are doing is you're just carrying on and on and on about what somebody else is.
What I'm telling you is stuff that you don't want to hear. You are
not telling me stuff I don't want to hear. You're talking rubbish.
I'm telling you what you don't want to hear. I'm making you look like a fool in the process, because what it boils down to is you don't want to know the truth. And
Give me the truth. Okay, tell me what smoke is. What is smoke? Look, tell me what smoke is.
Dr. Alfred Kroner, the book that I'm holding in my hand, he can tell you what smoke is. I suggest you pick up any writings.
Show me where he says what smoke is.
About this information, and he'll give you the information. I've given you a source. I've read a couple of quotes that he's given, and you're trying to take what he said out of context. He's trying to say that a mere man could not know this. Only our God, our Creator. Right. A man didn't know this. But the fact that he revealed this, that it was revealed in the Quran over 1,400 years ago before modern technology could prove it.
What is it?
Proof of the fact.
What is it?
About the gaseous state of the universe.
Where does it say gaseous state of the universe?
Dr. Alfred Kroner, I've given you a source.
In the Quran, where does the Quran talk about the gaseous state of the universe?
Oh my goodness gracious! Apparently, you don't hear very well.
Where does the Quran talk about the gaseous state of the universe?
I already gave you the verse. I gave you the surah and the verse.
It doesn't say gaseous state. It says 11.
Right,
that's smoke.
Smoke. What is smoke? It's inevitably gas, right?
No, that is wrong.
Hold on. What's not wrong is this is just a translation of what's said. Another translation may say something different.
Yeah, but Kenny, we can't rely on what other translations say. You said
what I'm saying is that because whoever translated this particular verse, if they chose to use the word smoke versus the word gas, then that's their mistake.
What is dukan?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, so you don't speak Arabic?
I don't know what that word is. I speak Arabic. You want to hear me speak Arabic?
It's Arabic for smoke.
Kenny, there's the word smoke. Can you see it there's the word smoke. There's the word smoke. These are three of the most well-known translations. We're on Quran X here. All three of them.
Click on roots.
Okay, so what you're doing is nitpicking, because what is smoke inevitably? It's a gaseous material. Hold on. What comes out of what comes out of your exhaust system? You see it as smoke, right? But inevitably, it's a gaseous material, right?
That's
same thing.
Incorrect.
No, it's not. It's not.
It is, because it contains particles.
Smoke
contains particles. Right, and so I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to debate with you about
that. That's very obvious. But what you are doing is you're making.
But as a matter of fact, you're not a scientist.
Well, I am. I have 2 degrees, which say the opposite.
You have 2 degrees from what university?
Who the fuck cares? Tell me what smoke is and show me somebody who says
exactly.
smoke.
All I want to, I'll take what you're saying to heart if you tell me what university. That's simple.
Why?
What does it matter? Why would you not
what
tell?
does it matter exactly?
Right.
Why are you asking?
Because it's plain and simple. If you're going to make a claim, I want you to prove your claim.
No,
I
your
don't
claim
believe you.
is that it's accurate.
Right now, I don't believe you. I don't believe you've gone to a university, and I don't believe you have any degrees in this field.
Okay, I don't have any degrees. You
Right.
said that the Quran is accurate.
So everything that you're saying is illegitimate because
you
I think
said
you're lying.
that the Quran is accurate. You said that the Quran is accurate. You said the Quran is accurate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have to prove it. It proves itself.
Okay, so you can't prove it. So you first say you believe in scientific miracles because it's accurate on a scientific level. Then when I show you smoke is not scientifically accurate, it is a mistake in the Quran. Then you say, well, I don't have to explain anything.
It's not a mistake in the Quran. Your understanding of what smoke is may be the issue because I don't believe that you've gone to a university and have
Look, Kenny, you don't need to go to university to know that smoke is particulate. Gas is not. You don't need to go to university to know that. Forget the university line. Grow up.
Don't speak to me disrespectfully. Okay?
Well, you pay a bit of respect. You're showing very little respect. You're showing very little respect.
No, what I'm doing is I'm defending Islam against Islamophobes and those who attack Islam. You are because you do this day in.
Calm down, Kenny.
We're done. I've ejected him. We're done.
I think we're done, yes.
This is very unproductive. I've been sitting here pulling my hair out. We're getting nowhere here at all. We're done. That's it. Can you bring up, I've actually lost the will now. Can you bring up a hadith here? We're done for the night.
It was fun, though.
It's an utter waste of my time here. Please bring up a hadith here so that we can finish off here. I have a debate with him on your channel, but this is just too painful to live with now. Can you do us a hadith there and we'll finish off. If you want to go to an after show, you can, but I've had it now. This has been a shouting match, people shouting over each other. I can't hear a damn thing that's going on here. This guy just keeps going on and on and on, and we're done now.